Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Picnic, patio, play a little bit of spike ball, a little bit of basketball.
The park, the beach, the backyard. Pandemic-weary British Columbians pounce at the chance to finally get together outdoors. Also,
we just want Chelsea home. We want to know that she's okay.
where is Chelsea Poorman? A Vancouver mother's desperate search for her daughter who vanished 6 months ago. And
my mental health, when I don't go to school for long durations of time, plummets really quickly.
And navigating the learning path during the pandemic at a South Surrey alternative school.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Anita is off tonight. Well, it sure didn't take long. Just seconds after restrictions on outdoor gatherings were eased in BC, many people started making plans to get together, and tonight they are. But will people actually follow the new health order? No more than 10 people, the same 10, and of course outside. And that's where our Isabel Regem is tonight, live at David Lamb Park in Vancouver's Yaletown. Isabel.
Mike, people have been waiting a long time for this to happen, and a lot of them are excited. If I take a step to the side here, you can see there's a few groups already gathering here. The first Friday since these rules or new restrictions eased off here. We've got about 10 people there and a couple of dogs hanging out. Now, these rules came into effect yesterday, effective immediately, and as you can tell, people are already taking advantage of it. And while there is some excitement, there is also some concern. Now, one expert warns rules may tighten up again and soon. We spoke to a COVID modeler who says if things continue as they are, the spread of variants could eventually mean the province will have to be forced to take some steps back in just a matter of weeks.
It's been a while, so we're looking forward to it.
Heading into the weekend, beaches like this one at English Bay may get busier than normal, with groups now allowed to gather for the first time since November.
Picnic, patio, play a little bit of spike ball, a little bit of basketball, everything that we couldn't do before.
And be able to open a little bit the bubble, because it's been a year, so.
Yesterday, BC's top doctor announced the outdoor gatherings were allowed with as many as 10 people.
This means your children can have a play date with their friends over the March break, but with their same group of friends.
I think a lot of people were just so pent up about such strict rules that this feels like something like, okay, I can do something that feels good, that's safe, that is not against the rules.
But is it too much too soon? UBC professor and COVID modeler Dr. Sally Otto anticipates that variant will become the dominant strain in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Once that happens, Dr. Otto believes rules will tighten up again.
We're going to have to decrease, once that becomes the most common strain in BC, we are going to have to constrain our activities.
But this epidemiologist doesn't believe outdoor gatherings will have an impact on the spread of the variant.
What I've seen around the world over the last year, I don't believe that outdoor gatherings are going to have a particularly noticeable impact on our pandemic.
And BC's premier is confident in the decision.
Came to the determination that we can relax those items with respect to the number of people gathering. We still want to be, again, vigilant, but we can have a little bit more joy.
While gatherings of 10 are okay outdoors, they are still banned indoors. And Dr. Bonnie Henry emphasizes that physical distancing is still very much important.
At least we can get back to somewhat normal, right?
Many British Columbians hope this is the first step to a more relaxed spring ahead. Now, if you have school-aged children, Dr. Bonnie Henry says to make sure that group of 10 includes or is part of your child's school cohort already. So it's not a separate group of 10, to make sure that that's already somewhat in your school bubble. Meanwhile, WorkSafe BC is also enforcing or increasing enforcement and inspections starting this weekend for spring break, as well as the upcoming St. Patrick's Day next week. It says its focus is going to be on ski hills, amusement facilities, and food services, among other things. Mike?
All right, nice to see people getting outside tonight. Isabel Regem, live at David Lamb Park in Vancouver tonight. And some other encouraging news tonight. For the first time since November, no new COVID-19 deaths in the last 24 hours. That said, there are 648 new cases of the virus, bringing our total to more than 86,000. There are 79 new cases. There are variants of concern, and that brings that total to 717.
Additional good news today. Dr. Henry and Dr. Brian Emerson, the Deputy Public Health Officer, have reviewed the start-to-play plan of the BC Junior Hockey League and has approved conditional support for a season starting in April.
Yes, the BC Hockey League is getting back on the ice. Safety plans include health screening, testing, and limited travel. Teams will only play in Penticton, Coquitlam, Chilliwack, Vernon, and Port Alberni. The Premier also hopes other youth sports leagues like junior football and lacrosse will return in the spring. And the Premier says the government is working to expand online COVID vaccine appointment bookings, but he warns there's still lots of work to do. Dan Burrett joins us now live with more on that tonight. Dan?
Mike, the province has promised an online vaccine booking system for all of BC by April 12th. Right now, only Fraser Health offers online bookings, and as we know, Monday's phone fiasco saw less than 400 people get appointments in Coastal Health. The system has been beefed up, and the health ministry says more than 380,000 vaccine doses have been given, many of them first doses. Premier Horgan says they're working to speed up the BC-wide online system.
A year ago, a common refrain was, we're building the airplane as we fly it, as we started to deal with the challenges of the global pandemic. Well, now we're laying the runway as we're arriving for landings. We're amending our plan on an hourly basis in some cases to make sure we're as up to speed and as contemporary with the amount of vaccine, our ability to deliver it, how we register people.
Horgan notes the vaccine phone system received 1.7 million calls on Monday for 50,000 people in BC who are 90 plus years old. That's when they were eligible. He says people are eager to get vaccinated, clearly, but they want to stagger it out.
And then more sites are being set up for people to get vaccinated across our province?
Yes, indeed. Things are ramping up in Prince George. Take a look at this. The city's Civic and Conference Center has been transformed into a vaccination center. It opens Tuesday, and it's for people in Phase 2, anyone 80 and older, and Indigenous people 65 and older. Northern Health has had what it's called a condensed schedule because, for example, fewer seniors live there, so they're able to move on to younger groups more quickly. And in Victoria, the curling floor at the Archie Browning Sports Centre is set up to give shots to people 85 and older starting Monday. Officials say they expect to have about 360 people come through every day. It's one of 20 immunization clinics opening up on the island. Rapid clinics are going to be set up in smaller communities to vaccinate every eligible adult at once. We told you about that earlier this week. And a mass vaccination plan is also being prepped for Prince Rupert because of its high rate of COVID-19. About 12,000 people there. Mike?
All right, Dan, thanks for the update. Dan Burrett with us live tonight. And not surprisingly, scammers are trying to capitalize on BC's vaccine rollout. They are phoning people claiming they are able to make booking appointments for the COVID-19 vaccinations. The fraudsters suggest their targets are next in line for the shot and then try to set up home visits. Police say they're actually trying to mine personal information such as credit card numbers and addresses. Don't give anybody that information. Just hang up and give police a call. A Vancouver mother fears police didn't act quickly enough when her daughter vanished 6 months ago. There are no clues as to what happened to Chelsea Poorman, a 24-year-old Indigenous woman. As Andrea Ross reports tonight, her mother hasn't stopped searching for her.
Sheila Poorman has spent the past 6 months taping up posters across Vancouver, talking to anyone who will listen.
My name's Sheila.
Sheila? Yeah. How are you, Sheila?
Good.
Hoping someone might know what happened to her daughter.
We just want Chelsea home. We want to know that she's okay. We want to know that, she's safe.
Chelsea Poorman was last seen on September 6th near Granville and Davie Streets. The 24-year-old Cree woman left an apartment just after midnight and met up with a man.
She didn't say who it was or where she was or any other information, just that she just met somebody. And then that was it.
Poorman says there have been no leads since her daughter left this building that night in September. No clues as to why she vanished. Just endless questions and an agonizing wait for answers.
Sometimes you just don't know where to start or, what to do.
Chelsea is vulnerable. She lives with a brain injury and walks with a limp. She was reported missing days after she disappeared, but Poorman says it took police 10 days to notify the public. In December, police said it was a missing persons case, but the homicide section was also involved.
The reason why they put it to the homicide unit is because they have more resources. And then they finally acknowledged that Chelsea is vulnerable and high risk.
Vancouver police say they have no updates to share. Poorman is planning a walking vigil this month for her daughter. Advocates say families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls turn to community for support when they feel they're not getting it from police.
It's families and their supports that are always doing the groundwork.
Williams says COVID-19 has exacerbated violence against Indigenous women and argues police have historically been slow to act.
MMIWG is our emergency, well before the pandemic, and it's worse now.
Poorman says her daughter loved animals, fashion, and music. She was friendly, funny, and caring.
She was always looking after other people. She'd see somebody and she'd want to help them.
Now she hopes someone is looking out for Chelsea.
Her sisters, myself, we miss her dearly, and we just want her home and we just want her safe.
She's asking anyone with information about her disappearance to contact police. Andrea Ross, CBC News, Vancouver.
A German Shepherd puppy is presumed dead tonight after being attacked and snatched by a cougar. A man was walking the puppy on a residential street in Anmore when the big cat attacked. It took off with the dog, and neither have been seen since. On Wednesday, the cougar killed another dog out for a walk with its owner in nearby Port Moody.
Public safety is our absolute number one priority. While cougar sightings in Anmore aren't rare, this is a rare occurrence. This is abnormal behavior. We do have some resources coming from other parts of the province.
Cougar sightings in urban areas should be reported to the Conservation Officer's Service, 911, if it's an emergency. Well, several explosions have rocked the city of Penticton.
At this time, we don't believe it's a significant threat to the public. We are extremely concerned, however, of the motivations and where these little bombs are occurring.
The RCMP's explosive disposal unit will help police there look into 2 confirmed explosions and a possible other blast. It happened at a soccer field, one of them at least, at Carmi Elementary School. Well, navigating your teenage years can be challenging, perhaps even more so for those attending alternative schools during a pandemic. They focus on students whose needs are not being met in a traditional school program. But as Wamish Hamilton discovered at an alternative school in South Surrey, students have found something more.
This is one of 6 alternative schools in Surrey School District. Here, students spend their days on art and English and other coursework as they navigate their unique view about themselves within the education system.
Different characters.
It also serves as a place of security and camaraderie for students who are LGBTQ or who don't feel safe in a traditional school setting. But even here, the fear of the coronavirus has made an impact.
And so we have a mix between students who are afraid to come to school, they're afraid to leave their houses, and we have students who are so in love with our face-to-face instruction and really see our school as an extended family.
Many traditional schools are using online learning. The alternative program is 100% face-to-face. And it's probably why students have forged a strong bond, which keeps them coming back to school. A bond so great One student commutes from Langley to South Surrey 5 days a week.
I struggle a lot because, this is a home away from home for me. And so my mental health, when I don't go to school for long durations of time, plummets really quickly. The social aspect is crucial to my day-to-day life.
COVID-19 has crept inside Desmond Tompkins' life. He's had friends and family who were infected. But the acceptance he's found at the Learning Centre has been a source of comfort and stability during the pandemic. So much so that he has been inspired to continue his education and become an alternative school teacher himself.
Students genuinely care for each other, making sure that the environment is safe and clean for each other, and the quality of education is much better in person, and due to our small class sizes, we can socially distance accordingly.
When students have had tough times, with home, relationships, health, they miss school so much, and it's the caring atmosphere. I don't take credit for this.
Everyone remembers their time in high school and where they fit or didn't fit in. Students at the Learning Centre, they found more than just a safe space to go to school. They found in each other a bond, a connection that gives them greater chance at social and academic success, as well as a way to get through the pandemic. Wamish Hamilton, CBC News, White Rock.
Johanna Wagstaff still on assignment tonight. Nick Czernkovich is here though now with the forecast. People are outside tonight. Nick, an enjoyable evening. What can we expect for the weekend?
Yeah, a lot of the same, at least for tomorrow. Sunday, we've got a little bit of a mixed bag. Early morning looks okay. Toward the evening hour, afternoon hours, we're looking at some rain showers. But definitely for tomorrow, great day to get outside. Here's what's going on. Of course, I've been mentioning this storm system here that's pushing in on the coast. It's really being held at bay by high pressure to the south. That's starting to weaken, or at least push a little bit further to the south. And as it does, rain is going to start to move in to the lower mainland. There's a look at the watches and warnings that are in effect to the north. We've got special weather statements for rain and snow and high winds, wind warnings as well. Some snowfall warnings and winter storm warnings across the north. As you head further south, what we're looking at really is just generally clear skies, rain showers pushing around the Tofino area right now. So move through tomorrow, they're going to slide back, sunshine for most of the lower mainland, and then as you get out toward the southern tip of Vancouver Island there. But as we head into Sunday morning, cloud cover starts to roll in, and by Sunday afternoon, that's when the showers start to move in. Around 1 to 2 p.m. I think is what we're looking at this point right now. There's a look at your forecast for the next 24 though. 1 degree tonight, 4 tomorrow morning, but 13 tomorrow afternoon. Lots in the way of sunshine and easterly breeze there. And we've got double digits sticking around into next week, but we do have that rain to talk about. Full details in your 5-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
All right, and of course our clocks go ahead an hour on
Yes,
Saturday night before bed. All right. Thanks, Nick. Talk to you again shortly.
You bet.
And a reminder, if you aren't already, you can also watch our newscasts live on CBC Gem. CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Oh, what a difference a year makes. 1 year ago, people heading home, jobs drying up. Why today the job situation is full steam ahead. That's coming up. And at 6:18, thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream tonight. Well, it has been a challenging year for frontline healthcare workers. A Saskatoon ICU nurse is making pandemic-inspired art to try to relieve the stress. And as Bonnie Allen shows us, his art supplies come from the hospital's garbage bins.
I'm a big recycler, so I've been repurposing a lot of things. A lot of pieces of wood and pieces of plastic.
Sean Tuvey doesn't like to waste anything. The 51-year-old registered nurse makes pieces of art from pieces of medical plastic.
And it has everything that we use at work during the day to keep people safe and alive. And there's antibiotics, there is sedatives, pieces of the ventilator.
Tuvey works inside St. Paul's Hospital. He cares for COVID-19 patients in the intensive care unit. His co-workers help him collect clean plastic waste that has never touched a patient.
We throw tons and tons of garbage out. I have thousands and thousands of pieces of plastic to work with, and so many ideas. Sometimes I stay up at night thinking about ideas. So, okay, this is kind of the star of the show here lately. This is the Pfizer caps, and all the purple ones are all the Pfizer caps, and then the yellow is the saline that they mix it with.
Plastic caps from vaccine vials have become his finishing touch.
There is the vaccine cap.
Tuvi was inspired by these murals that hang inside Toronto hospitals and the nurses who made them years ago.
Symbolically, to me, it represents all that care that not only I did, but the whole team did.
Now, Tuvi's art is having an impact on his co-workers in the ICU.
Looking at this piece, I was kind of very much stunned by this piece. And if we don't have a bright side, we could make one out of that bad situation.
It's also therapeutic for Tuvi. As a nurse, he's experienced burnout before.
I was crying on my way to work. I was crying when I'd be out for a run. Something wasn't right, and I crashed and burned from being in an adrenaline area for so long, for so many years, and trying to do too much. And it got the best of me, and I had to take some time off. And so artwork, physical exercise, some medication got me back on my feet again, and I'm doing really well these days.
Making something beautiful out of trash. A mission with a message.
I think it symbolizes hope.
Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
That's fantastic. Okay, back in just a couple of seconds. We're going to have more on a potential economic bounce back from the pandemic. Until then, take a look at this live shot on this Friday night of the Port of Vancouver over across to the North Shore at 6:21 in Vancouver. Employment in BC surged in February as Canada's battered job market made a surprise comeback. More than 250,000 Canadian workers found a job last month. As Jacqueline Hansen reports, that nearly makes up for 2 months of losses.
Calgary's Monkey Bistro reopened for a second time in February. It had closed most recently in December when rising COVID cases forced another wave of job losses.
Almost half of the last year we've had our doors closed for dine-in.
Capacity is still limited and that limits business. Sales are down a third.
It definitely hit us pretty hard, but we do our best to get as many people in through our doors as we can.
Still, every employee who wanted back is back, part of last month's surge in rehiring in some of the hardest hit sectors.
The fact that we are starting to see some of these lower wage jobs come back, I think that's positive. It does signal that as we move forward, as we are able to reopen our economy, we can anticipate job gains will continue.
But despite the gains, nearly a quarter of the restaurant and hotel workforce is still jobless. For 17 years, Akram Abri was a porter at a downtown Toronto hotel. When the pandemic hit, he was sent home.
It was difficult for me. Like, my life totally changed.
He relies on government support and can no longer send money to his parents in Indonesia.
Every day I wake up in the morning just see, I hope I get a phone call from work and tell me when I'm coming back.
Nearly 600,000 Canadians who had a job this time last year don't. And 400,000 are working fewer than half the hours they used to. Further healing of the job market will depend on healthy Canadians.
Or that we can get jabs in the arm, so to speak, on this vaccine rollout, which will allow us to start congregating together, the better it's going to be for the job market and the better it's going to be for the Canadian economy.
A key to the confidence workers crave.
I want to keep them as secure and as confident as possible that another lockdown won't happen, but unfortunately I'm not. I don't have that kind of power.
And hope for those left behind by a still uneven recovery. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
The RCMP's relationship with diverse communities has come under scrutiny recently, and diversity in the force remains stagnant. In fact, there are fewer than 10 women, persons of color, or Indigenous people in commission ranks in most provinces and territories. Rafi Boudjikanian has more.
The constant barrage of racist rhetoric
Carolyn Wagner joined the RCMP's Drayton Valley, Alberta detachment in 2000. She's not Indigenous, but had recently been traditionally adopted by the Blackfoot Nation, not expecting abuse from her peers and superiors.
As I was talking about Sundance, they started mimicking me sundancing while they're sitting in their chairs, and they were, going, oh, like that.
CBC News has learned Indigenous people and people of color are especially underrepresented in the force's upper echelons. Most provinces and territories have fewer than 10 among the commissioned ranks. That's inspector and higher. Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, and Nunavut have none, particularly relevant in Nunavut, where the Indigenous population is 86%. This as the RCMP's interactions with diverse groups have raised eyebrows. Last March in Fort McMurray, an officer tackled and punched Athabasca Chippewa First Nation Chief Alan Adam.
Mob of people terrorizing.
In Nova Scotia, there were questions about how the force handled a fisheries dispute between Mi'kmaq and non-Indigenous fishermen last fall, including accusations they stood by while Mi'kmaq property was destroyed. This retired inspector, Mi'kmaq himself, says poor representation among higher-ups hurts relationships with communities.
You will see the frontline policing officers in the news clips standing by and watching things happen. But I can guarantee you they are taking direction from senior officers.
The RCMP have developed a new equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy, though they wouldn't share the details. Rafi Wujikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
The Northwest Territories faces a growing housing problem, and for seniors, the crisis is acute. Many have homes that are crumbling around them, and as Chantal Dubuc shows us, it's left them stranded and desperate.
I cannot flush the bathroom. I've been using honey buckets. I cannot wash clothes.
74-year-old Celine Wayne has running water but can't use it. Her sewer pipe is frozen solid, and it could be weeks until a service person can take a look at it. She feels like there's nowhere to turn. She's not alone. Just a few streets away, another family in the community of Bécancour is having similar problems.
And look at this washroom.
64-year-old Rosa Mantla says she hasn't had running water for months. It's just the latest in a string of problems with her home. And it's making it even harder to care for her husband, who has arthritis and early onset dementia.
If he trip over, he's gonna break his leg or something.
Elders like her can get help with home repairs from the Territories Housing Corporation. It provides seniors with a forgivable loan of up to $10,000. It's part of the Housing Ministry's mandate to make sure seniors can age in place. Trouble is, the application process is difficult. It was so challenging, the Mantla family says, that's why they gave up trying to apply.
I'm concerned about their well-being, mental health, and for their health, overall health as well, because the house is condemned. Like, nobody should be living in that condition.
Celine Wayne is desperate too.
I'm tired of doing it. I cry lots inside. Where is everybody when you need help? And who do I go to? And who do I talk to? I'm not blaming nobody, but that's the way I look at it. That's the way I feel, like I got nobody to talk to. Nobody wants to help me. What is wrong,
But the territorial leaders here now say they're ready to address concerns like those. They've just agreed to review housing mandates and policies to make sure other people get the help they need to stay in their homes and not slip through the cracks in the system. Chantal Dubuc, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The city of Minneapolis has settled a civil lawsuit with the family of George Floyd. It totals about $33 million.
George Floyd had more witnesses to his torture and death than any other person, black or white, in American history. Over 50 million people have clicked to watch that video, and once you see that video, you can never unsee that video.
Floyd died last May after his violent arrest that was seen around the world. His family says it's pleased this part of the journey to justice has been resolved. Well, a new twist tonight in a murder that shocked Britain. A 33-year-old woman disappeared while walking home in London over a week ago. As Renee Filipponi reports, a senior police officer has now been charged with her kidnap and murder.
It's here, 90 kilometers southeast of London. Police found human remains hidden in the woods. And today they confirmed it's the body of Sarah Everard.
We have hundreds of officers working round the clock to establish the full circumstances of Sarah's disappearance and her murder.
The 33-year-old vanished on March 3rd, walking home from a friend's in South London. For days, police scoured the area looking for any trace of her. Then earlier this week, they turned their attention to this home in southeast England and in a shocking twist announced a police officer was under investigation. Today, Wayne Cousins was charged with kidnapping and murder. The force is also under investigation for how it has handled this case, and specifically allegations against the suspect for indecent exposure just days before Everard went missing. For people in London, the case has sparked fear.
Literally where Sarah disappeared was meters away from my flat. Me and my flatmates have all been terrified, as have all my friends around the area.
That terror has pivoted into a heated conversation about violence against women. Though COVID restrictions mean vigils planned for the weekend are banned by police, this organizer says something needs to be done to deal with the threats women face.
Spaces should be safe for women, and that it's not our behaviour that needs to change. It's not about what we wear, it's not about what time we go out.
There are calls for the government to intervene and allow the vigil to go ahead. For now, the Prime Minister says it's a police matter.
I totally understand why this has triggered such a wave of feeling on this issue, on the issue of safety of women and safety of the streets.
An outpouring of anger for the murder of Everard, as her family grieve a woman they describe as beautiful, thoughtful, and incredibly kind. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
The BC government is in the process of removing gendered language from its laws. What that means for a transgendered activist and why she hopes for more changes. Just ahead.
The National with Lori Brown and Peter Mansbridge.
British Columbia is following the lead of other Canadian provinces. The provincial government announced plans today to allow more gambling. And as Terry Malewski reports, the government expects to win big.
For governments, legalized gambling is a sure thing. Individual gamblers may lose, but governments always win by taking a cut of those losses. Now, BC wants a bigger piece of the action.
Enhanced revenue through gaming improves the ability of government to deliver the kind of programs that are important to people, then I think it's important.
Important means a projected $250 million a year in new revenue. Irresistible, it seems, despite strong opposition from those who say that both governments and gamblers will get hooked.
It means that our government is prepared to sacrifice, to throw to the wolves a percentage of our people because they want to raise money through gambling.
But the government is moving cautiously. It will not allow VLTs, video lottery terminals, which are causing a lot of controversy in Alberta. BC will allow slot machines and more charity casinos and for-profit casinos, but only in communities that want them.
People said to us, we don't want you to go crazy. There's not going to be VLTs everywhere. There's not going to be big casinos everywhere. But make sure that the existing charities that benefit from casinos are protected.
Gambling in Canada is a cash cow. $5 billion a year in total revenues and 3.8% of all provincial government revenues. Alberta leads the way, raking in well over $500 million a year from gambling. It also estimates that 5.4% of all adult Albertans are addicted to gambling.
It's addictive. It's a drain on the economy, and it's a strain on social services. And there's no benefit other than it helps get some bucks into the province.
That's why the city of Vancouver is opposed to the expansion of gambling by the province. But neither government can control the latest craze, which is internet gambling, which offers no tax revenues at all and which it is said allows you to lose your home without ever leaving it. Terry Malevsky, CBC News, Vancouver.
Some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Yeah, picnic, patio, play a little bit of spike ball, a little bit of basketball, everything that we couldn't do before. So really looking forward to that.
And many people are already out enjoying outdoor get-togethers tonight under BC's eased restrictions on gatherings. But will they actually follow the new health order that's now in effect? No more than 10 people, the same 10. And of course, you have to be outside.
We just want Chelsea home. We want to know that she's okay. We want to know that, she's safe.
Vancouver mother fears police didn't act quickly enough when her daughter vanished 6 months ago. There are no clues as to what happened to Chelsea Poorman, a 24-year-old Indigenous woman, but her mother hasn't stopped searching for her. Well, gendered language is being removed from BC laws. It will rid the pronouns he, she, him, and her from the wording of laws to better reflect gender diversity.
Well, anyone who's ever felt discrimination or seen themselves excluded will immediately understand why this is important. Words matter, and I think we owe it to everyone in BC to reframe the language that we use to ensure that gender inclusive and in both our language and also in the policies reflect all the people in this province.
Across 15 ministries, 600 instances of gendered language have been updated. Other forms of gendered language are being changed, like husband or wife to spouse, and man-made to human-made. Changing gendered language is one of a few government actions that move towards gender inclusivity. And joining us tonight to talk more about phasing out the barriers in government is trans activist Morgan Auger, who goes by she, her. Morgan, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, first off, let me ask you, what do you make of BC moving to get rid of these gendered language references in the province's policies?
I think it's a very good idea, and it's kind of about time. It's not just to do with trans people. The language of law shouldn't point to either men or women or anyone else. It should just talk about everybody. The law applies to all of us in the same way, and this is a really good development. It's particularly going to help non-binary persons and the persons of more marginalized genders that tend to be ignored. So I think this is really good.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit more. I mean, what is the impact going to be on marginalized gender identities?
Well, when you have a text that says, when there's a divorce between two people, the husband and the wife have certain rights or something like this, you're really highlighting who this is about. And instead, you could just say, when two people get divorced, for example, then they have some things that they have to do, or these are the rules that apply to them. And to not dictate the type of person that's involved gives us all this room to allow for the broad diversity of people in British Columbia, who they see themselves as and how they should be treated. It's a very helpful thing to not be telling people who the actors are in the letter of the law that we prepare to help everybody be supported in our province. So this is really helpful.
All right, I mean, you've been a trans activist for many years. You've also delved a bit into the political realm. Of course, you ran for the BC NDP. I mean, from your experiences, what real progress have you seen?
Well, having the explicit protection of gender identity or expression in our human rights law provincially and federally across Canada means that it's much less acceptable today to discriminate arbitrarily against people because of who they are or because how they present themselves based on gender than it was in the past. And that's very, very helpful. I've seen policies come in across all of civil society and the criminal code as well, keeping people safe from gender-based discrimination. It made me laugh a little bit that the first implementation of this was an all-girls school who got where the girls got their school to drop the requirement to have kilts, and in doing that, it freed them from this gendered expression requirement that they had to be in kilts, and instead it just told them to wear appropriate clothing according to uniform standards. I think in the political realm we have a long ways to go yet. No party in Canada has yet had like the wherewithal to put a transgender person in a riding where they could be elected. And that's really unfortunate. We came close with me, but there's some ways to go on that.
Mm-hmm. Morgan Auger, thanks very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Well, the pandemic has been hard on people, but also hard on our planet. The environmental costs of personal protection coming up. And at 20 to 7, there is a live look. Is that Tofino? Somebody's going to tell me. It's Tofino. On this Friday night. Looking good over there, and it's looking good for much of the weekend for us, although Nick's going to tell us what might change on Sunday. We'll get to his full forecast just ahead. minister says we will soon see another big boost in the supply of COVID-19 vaccines, which in turn will help regions ramp up their own rollouts come April. But as David Cochran reports, this strong leap into spring isn't without some hurdles ahead.
With clocks poised to spring forward, so is the country's vaccine supply.
I can confirm that Canada will receive at least 1 million Pfizer doses per week from March 22nd to May 10th. 1 million doses of Pfizer alone every 7 days.
It means April will be significant for Canada's vaccine rollout. Pfizer, Moderna, and India's Serum Institute are set to deliver a combined 8 million doses, totaling in a single month what Canada received in the last 3 combined.
Every dose makes a difference.
Every dose makes a difference, but not every dose is easy to get if it's not Pfizer or Moderna.
We have 10 million single-shot vaccines coming from J&J, 20 million vaccines coming from AstraZeneca.
Those are likely coming from Europe or the United States. AstraZeneca has already told European countries it will miss its spring delivery targets, which means the EU may limit exports. Meanwhile, the U.S. is stockpiling tens of millions of AstraZeneca doses before the drug is even approved there, and not allowing any doses to leave the country.
We also want to make sure we have maximal flexibility, that we are oversupplied and overprepared.
None of the vaccines that we have been contracted for or promised to Canadians have been blocked either by the European Union or by the United States.
Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't. President Biden and European leaders are under pressure to accelerate their own vaccine rollout, so the lack of domestic supply leaves Canada vulnerable. The good news is that Pfizer and Moderna are meeting delivery schedules, and between them should provide enough doses to vaccinate every Canadian. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
With many people working from home, the pandemic has led to fewer cars on our roads. Researchers say that this reduced air pollution significantly, and as Tashana Reid explains, health experts hope the evidence brings life-saving changes.
And they have the inlet for the gases.
For the last 12 months, chemistry professor Hind Elabadle and a team of researchers have been examining air quality in southern Ontario.
The pandemic was the unfortunate event that actually motivated me to look at data.
Comparing that data to the previous 3 years, they found air pollution declined.
We saw statistically significant drops in nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide in the months following the lockdown of about 20% beyond natural variability.
Lockdowns and less traffic on the road translated to better air quality, a key to healthy communities. And while it's hard to draw links between air pollution and individual deaths, complex modeling by researchers around the world has linked fossil fuel air pollution to at least 8.7 million premature deaths in 2018. Exposure to air pollution causes and exacerbates many respiratory illnesses and chronic diseases. And now, COVID-19.
There are studies from multiple countries now showing that there have been higher levels of COVID diagnoses and deaths from COVID in areas with high levels of air pollution.
This emergency physician says improvement in air quality during the pandemic shows what's possible if Canada continues to invest in a low-carbon future.
You know, it's a moment of crisis, but it's also a moment of opportunity.
They can learn about their air pollution levels compared to other parts of their city.
Air quality expert Jeff Brook is developing an app that explores air quality and the health of communities.
All we know about air pollution and health relationships suggests that any improvement leads to benefits in health that now we'll be studying over the next several years to really try to understand how many lives have been saved. COVID was...
Brook says the question now is how Canadians will move forward when things eventually get moving again. Tashana Reid, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, the weekend is here. Nick Czernkovich is here. We're now allowed to go outside and gather here in BC, Nick, and more than 10 people, and it's got to be the same 10 people, and it's got to be outside. So what can people expect? They're doing that this weekend.
Hopefully you like those 10 people.
Well, that's true.
Because you're stuck with them.
That's right.
You know what? If not, at least you've got a nice weather to get outside and get apart, which I suppose defeats the purpose. But anyway, beautiful weather headed our way for tomorrow. Today we had 12 degrees in Vancouver, 10 out in Victoria. Actually, warmer temperatures for tomorrow. There's a look at currents right now, 7 at Vancouver Airport, West Vancouver at 9, Abbotsford still hanging on to double digits. Here's what we're looking at. Generally clear skies, rain showers though pushing in just south of Tofino right now. It's going to be a bit of a push and pull for the next 24 hours for you out in Tofino. Big system that's making its way through. I showed you the warnings earlier on to the north. As we look at the forecast, this system begins to sort of shift up and down. So we're going to see on and off showers around the Tofino area tomorrow. That's kind of the line here, but generally sunny as you head further to the south. Saturday looks to be, for the most part, a great day in southern BC. As we head through Sunday morning, so Saturday night into Sunday morning, cloud cover starts to push through. Rain showers begin to push down. Now, Sunday morning is going to be dry in Vancouver, but as you head to the afternoon, we're looking at likely around 1 p.m.-ish, give or take. Rain showers are going to push through, and then basically just kind of cloud cover into Monday with a few hints of sunshine. Now, how much rain are we talking about? Not a whole lot, about 5 millimeters, 3 to 5 millimeters of rain. So really more like showers, if anything else. Winds are going to shift a little bit more out of the southeast. That's going to help temperatures bump up. It doesn't show up on here, but I think especially along the Strait of Georgia through Sunday, we could see wind gusts upwards to about 40 kilometers per hour. So a little breezy on Sunday. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. Again, lots of sunshine through southern BC and again through the lower mainland. Temperatures up to 15 degrees out toward Abbotsford, Vancouver at 13 degrees, Victoria at 13 as well. 5-day forecast for Vancouver, 13 again tomorrow. Rain showers though on Sunday, and as we head through Monday, a little bit more in the way of cloud cover, but hanging on to those double digits all the way through mid next week, at least anyway. Mike.
All right, we'll take it. Not too bad at all. Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Well, a longtime advocate for the Chinese-Canadian community has died. Colonel Howe Lee leaves behind an important legacy in the community. The third-generation Chinese-Canadian had a distinguished 35-year military career. Lee was also a teacher for 40 years in Burnaby.
Chinese Canadians we're part of the wallpaper. We're everywhere and in every part of level of government. But so many of us, and in the Canadian community at large, have forgotten what a struggle it was and how hard we had to fight for everything. And Howe was really important in leading that battle.
The Chinese-Canadian Historical Society of BC recognized Colonel Lee in 2019 for his many years of service. It was one of Winnipeg's biggest draws, the world's most prestigious collection of Inuit art. Why a visit doesn't involve a trip to Manitoba, next.
This was the scene on Sunday evening after a bowl of seafood chowder was dumped on the head of Canada's first Prime Minister. It was hosed off for free, but last week the city paid $1,200 to have yellow paint removed from the statue after it was defaced. It also spent $1,700 in the summer to clean up this red paint. The mayor says the city is still trying to decide what to do with the statue.
There will be issues, I know that, and I feel that this vandalism or this defacing of this public piece of art is not acceptable, but some individuals are very passionate about this, and for me, I do not want to create a wedge issue.
Downtown, Canada's first Prime Minister is displayed prominently, but he's also regarded as a key player in the residential school system, which saw 150,000 Indigenous children separated from their families and subjected to abuse and neglect. The city says it is in a consultation process in order to tell this full story, but PEI's Indigenous groups say this has dragged on long enough. The chiefs of PEI's First Nations say they have already provided their recommendations to the city and remains open to future engagement, but does not support the simple rewriting or addition of a small plaque to be an acceptable solution. In a statement to CBC News, the Native Council of PEI says City Council has strongly expressed their disinterest in revisiting the motion to remove or relocate the statue despite further Indigenous consultation. NCPEI is discouraged by the lack of timely response and proactive engagement.
My response is that we're working on it. It's just that we have a lot of hurdles, a lot of hoops to go through, and it will take place. But patience is very important for this process.
Now, the mayor says that those with concerns can reach out to City Hall or to their city councillor, but no public consultation process has been launched. Nicola McLeod, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Gloria Makarenko returns as host of West Coast Leaf's annual fundraiser, the Virtual Equality Breakfast for Dinner. Get your tickets today at westcoastleaf.org and download Pieces, CBCBC's new original podcast. Go on a journey with host Jeremy Ratt as he grapples with his Indigenous identity and understands his past. Learn more at cbc.ca/pieces.
Well, items that go up for auction at Sotheby's often sell in the millions of dollars, but 3 items this month are going to sell for a very different reason.
What these share, besides being the very best examples and the rarest in their respective categories, is that each one of them has some sort of mishap or mistake that makes them valuable.
This 1933 U.S. gold coin was pulled before it ever went into public use, and it's the only one in private hands. Also on offer, the rarest stamp in the world, the 1856 British Guiana 1-cent magenta, which was made when stamps from Britain didn't arrive. Also for sale, a plate of the famous 24-cent inverted Jenny plain stamp issued by the U.S. back in 1918. Pretty obvious if you saw it, what went wrong there. The plane's upside down. All 3 items are expected to sell for close to $10 million US, possibly as much as $15 million. Well, it's a huge display of Inuit art, the largest public collection anywhere. And starting later this month, anyone can see it digitally. A new installation at the Winnipeg Art Gallery is giving people the chance to take in the art and the history behind it. Stephanie Cram has the story.
Kamayork, which in Inuktitut means it is bright, it is lit, will soon open its doors to the public. The museum is home to 14,000 pieces of Inuit art, with an additional 7,400 pieces on loan from the government of Nunavut.
What we want is for Inuit to see that this is an exhibition that is for them and that they are going to recognize parts of their own communities and their lives and their relationships in that work. And so that's what I'm really excited about, is that Inuit are going to get to lead, not just now, but in the future as well.
The first exhibit on display is called Inua, which includes family art chosen by the Inuit curators.
My co-curators and I are thrilled to finally be able to share Inua with the world. Inua means life force in many dialects across the Arctic. and is an acronym for Inuit Nunangat Una Maktut Atautikut, or Inuit Moving Forward Together, reflecting our collective vision for Kamayuk. The four of us have selected, borrowed, or brought in from the collection works that we are, by artists who we are personally related to. So we thought of this as our ancestors' installation.
Kablusiak, who helped curate Inua, decided to include dolls made by their grandmother.
So these are dolls wearing traditional sort of like Mother Hubbard style dresses from the Western Arctic, from the Inuvialuit regional settlement. It's really heartwarming to see family within the exhibition. It makes me feel very at home.
Kamayurk is the largest public collection of contemporary Inuit art in the world. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And thanks for watching tonight. Before we go, we want to acknowledge it's been 30 years since the groundbreaking series The Dr. Peter Diaries aired on CBC TV. The Vancouver physician chronicled his battle with HIV/AIDS, challenging myths and bringing a human face to the new and mysterious disease. His mother, Shirley, seen here, keeps his memory alive today by fighting the stigma of the disease. Thanks again. Good night.